Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last talk of the LATAM Digital Talent Summit. Today, I have the pleasure to present Kleber Puchaski, who is the design director at Size Group. A digital innovation partner has been leading the team in charge of the SD design system, supporting platform implementation across businesses. And Kleber also founded Flutter Innovation, a network enterprise supporting companies. So, welcome, Kleber. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said before to you, I know it's really important to us because we know you're in Germany and it's quite late for you. So, thank you so much for that, for sharing all your knowledge and experience today with us. Kleber is going to talk about design leadership. And, well, we're ready to start when you're ready.
Good. So, thank you so much, Alice, for inviting me here to having me here today. And I think can I start them? So it's been super interesting last couple of weeks when we discuss briefly, the topic for this talk, and then I start kind of collecting the ideas, learnings from over the last 20 years, and I came up with this title, which is put together three of the key elements of the topics that I really enjoy discussing. Before I started, so I'm going to just introduce myself a little bit, and then tell you guys what I've been up to. So this is a timeline. So it's pretty much the 20 plus years of experience that I've managed to navigate through different environments, from corporates to lab education, and then consulting, entrepreneurship, and more recently, over the last 6-7 years, I've been I'm back again to the corporate world, leading teams, more precisely at Philips, and now more recently at Size Group. So Melissa already mentioned about Flutter Innovation. So Flutter is a company that I've founded back in 2014. It is a kind of a combination of all the learnings from the consulting time. And Flutter is a group of consultants that we've been helping companies to innovate through design, and the company is essentially 100% remote since day one, and that was the original idea around that. Zeiss Group, it's been a year that I've been leading the team, the digital design team that is responsible for the design system. And Zeiss, it's a German manufacturer company. It's been around for 170 years. And Mr. Carl Zeiss is the gentleman that invented the microscope. So, and over the last 175 years, there's so many different innovations and in different areas. But essentially everything related to lens and optics, the topics that Zeiss is specialized. I like this one on our top right corner. That camera is the camera that took all the pictures and images from the moon in 1969, and all the images that we have probably stuck in our brains, in our minds, related to the moon, came from that particular lens. So just to give you, some fun fact about Zeiss and how deep knowledge this company has in terms of high-end technologies. So, as I mentioned, the topic today, or the topic that I'd like to present, to discuss today, it's a combination of those three key ones. So, leadership, complexity, and perception. So, I could discuss that for hours and hours. So I have this time stays of half an hour, so I'll do my best to squeeze as much as I can within half an hour. So leadership to me, it's I've got this framework which is pretty much put together people, process, content, and context. I'm going to discuss this more in depth through the case. Complexity. It's something that is fascinating over the last couple of years, essentially working with design systems in different corporations and companies. It's a topic that it's fascinating because there's some people that love or hate it. So, but the thing is, it's all about the way that you deal with that complexity, and and how you break down, to small chunks, and that you can deal and digest and build things out of it. But I think the most important part is to embrace complexity. So there's no other way. If you work in the digital environment, there's no other way other than embrace complexity and try to understand and deal with that and move forward. And the third topic is about perception. So this is also a key word throughout my career. So the title of my thesis starts with perceptions, the perceptions of branding design in the automotive industry. At that time, I was more into the automotive industry, discussing those designs and innovations in that industry. But to me, the way that people perceive things, it's quite interesting and affects and inspires quite a lot the design process. And as a designer, so I usually say there's not kind of right or wrong, but it's just pretty much the way that people perceive things and their perceptions on that one. And so that's why it's important for designers to better understand, patterns and identifying patterns, and out of those patterns, you bring, insights and ideas and turn into products and service. A little bit more down on earth, the last topic, it's about speed and quality. So I've been discussing these quite extensively with my team and some of my colleagues. So to what extent you have to speed up and to put a product in market, or you have to make sure that the quality it's at the right level. So as we live in a society that people have kind of access to almost everything, the notion of quality has been changing quite dramatically, and people are getting more and more used to high and quality of everything. And when it comes to the digital world, so then things can get more flattened. So I would say the quality in the digital doesn't require much more investment to get. It's different from the product. The physical world, where the quality comes with layers and layers of other elements when building things. All those topics together. So I'm going to bring this into the case that I'm going to present. So you're going to easily identify all those elements in different case areas. Okay. So the first topic was about leadership, and then I was reflecting, over the last couple of weeks, and then what would be, my definition of design leadership, or what are my principles, and those are the principles that has been changing over the years, of course, as getting more experience on this topic and learning from different environments. So I've been reflecting and put those four principles together as my leadership principles, and definitely not my recommendation. So I think there's different styles, definitely. But to me, well, people, it's on top of everything that we do. So people first, and the rest will follow. Which means that you can have the best toolbox, the best design system, or the best environment, but if you don't put people first and to and work together and figure what are the gaps and work the gaps to make sure that the team can move together. So then things it's not that easy to to come together. So once you've reprioritize and put people first. So there's a second in line, it'll be process. So it's essentially what get the team or yourself organized and also super important to commit to deliver. So and then probably so you're thinking, well, how is agile or waterfall place in that discussion? So to me, either or. So I've been leading teams in both formats, and there's not kind of right or wrong. It also connects with the context. So if the context requires you and your team to build everything and hand over to the next team, or if you can build together with all the stakeholders, so either way, you have to organize the team around that idea, and most important in that case, to make sure that you set for success and you commit to deliver whatever is you the goals of that team. Then comes content. It's fascinating. Content to me, it's everything that you suck it in. You bring to yourself, and all whatever you read and you listen to, and your visual inspirations. The vision expressions and all the elements and feelings and sense that you can bring. It will pretty much define the quality of what you're going to produce. So then I stole this quote from an American author. I cannot remember his name. I'm apologize for that. But then there's it's quite a simple sentence that says, "If not excellence, what?" So if you're not committed to deliver the best or the best in class, so I cannot imagine a team or a professional thinking, okay, I'm going to do 65% of my potential. I'm going to do 70% of everything that I do. So I don't know. To me, it's really hard to imagine that thing. So it's not only trying to do your best, but it's trying to do the best that is possible to make sure that the product it is built in the best way possible. There's another thing that is really important when it comes to the quality, is that quality, you lose the quality along the process. If you don't, especially designers, if your design is not committed to the best in class, so, and to build not only the assets but also the documentation and everything around it, so things can fade away, so and we know that there's a long distance between design and the final product. So it's important to make sure that you not only kind of build with the quality in mind, but you make sure that you guarantee the quality will remain until the product is launched. And the final one is context. So know your surroundings. So we do design by ourselves. It's really difficult, even if you have your personal brand. So you will there's kind of lots of dependency on other people. So all your stakeholders, your colleagues, and but knowing, so everything around you will help you to better navigate, on the moments that you probably find resistance, or you find difficult to push the quality that I've mentioned. So knowing the context, and it's super important, especially because there's always a difference in terms of mindset and difference in terms of thinking, as you know. So there's more rational people that it's more focused on kind of efficiencies and cutting corners and make sure that everything you deliver it as fast as you can. And on the other hand, we have people more worried about qualities and so on. So as you have different mindsets, and that will require to better know your stakeholders. Let's jump into some cases. Okay, I'd like to illustrate this a little bit with some case. So as I mentioned, Philips, I've been almost 5 years with Philips, and we started even before with Flutter. So Philips was one of my clients, and then the story of this product, it's called TAZI. It's an EMR, electronic medical record, and this software, it's been built for more than 20 years, and then Philips acquired them, and they decided to move the technology towards a more modern approach and a place. And then they invite designers and to be part of it. So, and we start with Flutter team, and then Philips absorbed the entire team and even myself. So I became design director. That's that business, which is based in Blumenau, Brazil, and we had this challenge, to redesign 14,000 screens. And it was kind of doing very basic math in that one, so it was not kind of the best way of thinking about scalability. So we had the time constraint as well, which was 3 years to build that up. And the cool thing is that that product became, now we know that TAZI became, the platform for the many other platforms from Philips. So all the other products related to different business are now connected to that platform. So, which is making a complex thing even more complex. So, long story short, so we start kind of thinking the system more as a physical product, and then we imagine that we can explore that, and recreate the system in the layer format, and using the atomic design, of course, as a reference for that one. We've managed to reorganize, the entire assets in different layers, from very small elements on the front end up to down to the back end. The other tool that we've put together, it is what we call the UX hierarchy model. So we're trying to figure out, so the SE's moment, so how that software was perceived, and then all the functionalities was perceived by the user, and where we want to go, and where we want to back to into design by redesigning the whole thing. How are you going to position or reposition that product? So, of course, the product was already functional and reliable, but we would love to come up in a more, let's say, a meaningful experience for the user. And then we put together all the sequence of layers and facts that it was necessary to reach the highest level of that model. Of course, that's again, long story short. So we came up with we had to redesign the design system. So, and we established a design system that it was based with atomic design, but following the structure of that context. And then there are several tools and frameworks and models that we've built for that particular product. And one of them is what we call the experience architecture. So where we have the bottom part, foundations, components, and models, what we call the modular areas, and the upper part of that model, that is the kind of the configurability. It's the part of the architecture where the different users could configure same flows to match their needs. So, I think the point here is just to show you a little bit, the structure, that how we broke down, the complexity, and we managed to create a more, let's say, easy way to read the complexity of the system. The other thing, as I mentioned, process as part of the principles. So we built over and over again the design process. So there was every couple of sprints we did the retrospective, and then we were polishing the process to make sure that the team were kind of moving without any, let's say, barrier or huge dependencies and everything. So getting a right structure also helped the team to move super fast. And then we build, design process, user research process, and all the personas. Just to give you an example, so within this platform, there was 170 personas as users of that system. So it's a huge thing. How to understand those 170 different needs, and I think that was a massive exercise. But now, imagine, so this is a system that you can run the entire hospital from the reception up to the surgery theater. So you have all those personas and users using absolutely the same system. So another thing that I'd like to grab your attention is the UX moment. So we've analyzed also the user flows, and more than 100 plus user flows, and then we figured all the similarities, and then we put those in layers again, and then we flattened it, and we came up with this, what we call the UX moments. Essentially, the moments of the user experience, and that help us to rethink and to find efficiency gaps that we could leverage and make sure that the components were reused over and over again. So, well, that's in short. So that's sort of the Z. So the product is still kind of course, in constant flux, in constant update. So the product became a global platform. So it's been used now from all over Brazil. I think more than 1,000 hospitals in entire Latin America, and in Europe, and Australia, and Japan. So it's all over the place. So this is I think it's a key combination of all those elements that I've showed before about complexity, leadership, and perception. So you can encapsulate those three topics within this project. So once we've done that, then I've moved to the central team in the Netherlands to drive the DLS, the design language system, for the entire portfolio. So the portfolio, as you can imagine, Philips, it's a huge portfolio, but nobody knew exactly how many products we were talking about. So but everybody knows that, of course, Philips is a huge corporation, and it's moving quite fast towards healthcare. And then we run an inventory and also a design audit to make sure that we knew exactly our surroundings. We knew exactly all the elements that we had to deal with. So, and then we came up with this, what we call the complexity map. So essentially, this is just two axles matrix where we have, in the vertical, the elements, the number of elements. So we count, the number of elements on the screen, so the components and models and everything. And the horizontal one was the cognitive load of the user. So how complex the user perceived that particularly application or system. So, and then as you can see on top of level 4, so Tazi is there. So as one of the most complex ones. And then to have air fryer, the least complex one. So we did a very basic calculation based on the experience moving to Z, and we came up with a kind of a magic number with 10 years to implement the entire landscape, the entire portfolio for Philips. So then, of course, we had to come up with a better solution to minimize, of course, the impact of implementation. Some other things bringing from the other projects, experience on trying to figure out, the user journey and the good experience, the bad experience that user were having, and tackle, of course, first the bad experience to get some quick wins throughout the project. We also create what we kind of gently call the pixel journey. So we were kind of chasing the pixel and make sure that we could follow the pixel. It essentially is trying to figure out, all the journey from having an idea and building that hand sketch, and then and transform this into a vector in the sketch, and then moving into a JSON file to the front end, and on and on and on until the final product. So the idea here was pretty much kind of to follow the pixel and see if there were some areas that we could improved the efficiency across the process. We came up with this concept of generic pixel and specific pixel. So we were kind of falling in love with the pixels, I guess. You may remember the UX moment. So here is a good example. Actually, it's not a good example. It's an example of where we analyze, one particular business, the oncology business, and then we figured that there's 7 softwares that it's been using across the user journey, and 7 different systems and 7 different login screens. So it's just to give you one very basic example. So it was really tricky to find the consistency across. So that was kind of a tool and exercise that was helping us also to promote, the importance of having a design system, because the consistency and everything. So, and then we've came up with an idea of what if we had a what do you call it, digital design ecosystem, and we call that NAS, and what if design could also cross a little bit the line and start coding a little bit, and then transforming our components into a fully agnostic group of assets and libraries, and then to minimize the impact of for the developers to read specifications and building things. So what if we anticipate a little bit of coding, and that was quite unique. So today it's a common sense. We can have some good tools that they can do this quite easily. This is 2014. So we were kind of experimenting and doing some proof of concepts that we came up with some really good examples of that one. We've actually built a builder. So we built an application that you could just drag and drop the component and build prototypes and everything. So, but then it looks super cool. But then we came up with this, back again to the complexity topic. So the thing became, quite complex, even to explain. So what is the design system, and what is the build-in, and what is this, what is that? So it was really difficult to bring people together. And the idea, and to be very honest, was difficult to implement. So then Unfortunately, the project was discontinued, but and I think we proved the point that it is possible to get designers and developers working together with the same piece of code. So it was quite nice at the time. So being mindful of the time, so I'm going to speed up, perhaps even skip some of the slides, but I'd like to share a little bit of also what I've been doing now with the Zeiss. So Zeiss also, as I mentioned, it's 4 big business units, and with the learnings, of course, that I've brought from previous projects, there's also some other collaborations with design system in between those 2 companies. But one thing on learning was from that thing, and that I've had the opportunity to build at Zeiss was what I call the design excellence program, which is essentially building rather than build bottom up. We start kind of building top down. Of course, sounds strange top down, but then we've built the strategy first, and then we start kind of cascade down. So and then we put together the design principles, which essentially was already there. So we just leveraged the design principles that they had. And then I've also, to me, it's equally important to have usability principles. Unfortunately, I forgot to put the reference. It's from Jakob Nielsen. So if you're doing digital work, and please check it out, Jakob Nielsen and usability principles. So this is pretty much what you can use to guarantee quality. So it's a way to guarantee that usability takes the place, as equal partner of the design principles. And then the digital design approach, as I've mentioned before, the experience matrix or experience stack. Now we redesigned the approach with context in mind. So at Zeiss, the web platform, it's a 60,000 page. It is massive web platform that it's been built and managed using the AEM, which is the Adobe experience management system. So it's a CMS. And to me, perhaps one of the most important parts in the digital design management, where we put the governance together with the strategy, tactics, and ops all together. So then, of course, as I mentioned before, the importance of having a very strong and structured process. So, and the governance that could be, spread all over the company, and getting all the partners, all the stakeholders together. So for Zeiss, there's one element that I think is quite unique, I would say, is the agnostic and the context specifics. So we've managed to build a design system that can be used and reused in different platforms, so which is something fairly unique for the company at this moment in time. So we came up with the archetypes, or the templates, one layer, the top layer of that experience matrix, as you can see here. So there's a bunch of 11, I think it's 20 would be the final number, templates to build 60K page. So it's highly scalable. So it is something quite it's beautiful to see, so that you can play with the models and reorganize the templates and page and with the same bunch of code, which is super nice. Okay, some reflections on that. So I'm a little bit over time. I'm sorry about that one. And our expectations and reality. So we can have, as I mentioned, the best process, the best infrastructure and everything, but we're talking about people. So, and then I think it's why it's sometimes it's quite hard to make sure that you can bring the team together. All the challenge that we have. I've got this from a nice book called in Portuguese, O Espírito Transformador, from Jair Mogi. So please check him out. So he's a consultant. He's driving, consulting for big corporations, and he has this book that brings together, the idea of the anthroposophy idea to the business, and but kind of mixed together all these amazing, really interesting topics. But then he argues that it's really tricky, to combine, the thinking, the feelings, and the willing of people. So that's why it's really difficult for us to, find a way through. Sometimes, get people together and building teams and so on. So it's not an easy task to do. But I'm always arguing on top of that we are kind of missing somehow those three eyes. So the intuition, inspiration, and imagination. So working big corporations, and I don't think that I can just step in a meeting and say, hey, I had a feeling that we can do this and that. So the intuition is something that's we're not necessarily. It's not kind of a welcome feeling that you can share quite often. So, and the other thing is kind of inspiration. So I'm always asking to designers that work with me. So where did you get the inspiration from? So what kind of things that you feel in your brain? With and then of course the imagination, so thinking about the future. So I think less and less people are having time or even kind of courage to imagine and to think about the future. So as needless to say about the pandemic and everything, I'd like to invite you to rethink those three eyes as an element, for you to bring together when doing design. I'm also like to there's one as I mentioned, so about patterns. So I love this quote: to understand is to perceive patterns. So it is from Isaiah's Berlin, which is and Jason Silva put together nicely, beautifully, kind of in this video. That's and the convergence between nature and the patterns that we see in our daily lives, or the patterns that we don't see. But he argues and discusses, how important it is to figure out, the patterns around us, and sometimes some of the problems that we have. I guess the ants already sorted out, or maybe some other elements of nature already sorted out, So and we are not kind of paying attention that much to patterns that are around us. So please check out this video and so many other videos. That's Jason Silva, which is this guy here. He brings together philosophy and video making, and it's quite nice. Please check it out. Okay. Finally, some learnings. So things that I've learned so far. So and like to share this the idea of zooming in, zooming out. So as I've been working with pixels, and as I mentioned, falling in love with those little things, but also kind of putting people together and moving towards a particular goal. So it's important sometimes to check the very tiny details around us, but sometimes you need to just step back and then zoom out and make sure that you understand the whole picture. Then it connects with of course knowledge, maturity, and will. To me, it's a combination of those three. So it not necessarily comes with the time, especially maturity. Knowledge is something, it's out there. It's just for you to go out there and grab it, but not only consume the knowledge, but also produce something. So producing, and with the wheel of producing new thinking. So it's also something that we always reference reference someone, but sometimes we forget that if you look closely, you definitely have something to say, and please share that. So it's super important. And the other thing is about decision making. So fast and pragmatic decision making. So speed, as I mentioned before, so it's also something important that we have to consider, and finding your framework of decision making, and it's important to make sure that you learn along the way, and yeah, definitely. It's part, the journey. So you have to take decisions fast, especially in the digital world. So and of course, pragmatic decision. It is a must. So, design as a way of thinking. It is, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, the last sentence of my thesis. The last recommendation was, back in 13, well, long ago, years ago. I was with that idea of having design as a way of thinking, but I think that we can expand that idea and live in design. I think it's something that again, I think I've been doing that for quite a long time. So and I really enjoyed the journey, and so I think the journey, it's been a design-driven journey, and I highly recommend that. So whatever that means, design to you, but I think to me it's been more than just my profession. It's something that I've been living and breathing this one. So and I'm really honored and humbled. And thank you, The Bridge, for the opportunity of having me here. So, and now I'm gonna shut up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to get your questions or comments. Please stay connected. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Kleber. It was really, really interesting. Like, you talked about so many points, and we already have some questions here. So I'm gonna start
Okay.
with one of Judith LaGuardia, who's saying, like, in your experience, how should the design approach based artificial intelligence be considered? In your experience, how should the design approach based on artificial intelligence should be considered? Can automation design like humans?
Geez, do we have time?
Yes, yes, we do, we do. We have
No,
20 minutes
yeah.
the most.
Okay,
So you
yeah,
can
just joking, because this is a fascinating topic. I think so. Yeah, singularity is something well known already. So there's some many articles and discussions about that one. So I think it's, there's no other way. So we have to embrace it. It's not something that I usually say. Oh, there's something that we can control, something that we can influence. I think when it comes to artificial intelligence, and the possibility of having a moment of singularity in the near future. So I don't think that we can hold it back. So it's just for us, it's important to understand, embrace it, and try to figure out, how can we play a key role in that one. So and enjoy the ride. So you can sit and watch, or you can be part of it. So I'm definitely decided to be part of it. So I think there's companies and projects that I've been getting myself involved. To some extent, they have elements of that one. So everything related to the digital world somehow will evolve in that direction. So why we shouldn't be part of it? So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And from the principle you mentioned before that people first and then the rest will follow. Following up on what Judith said, based on the artificial intelligence approach, what will be the role of the people in design, or how do you or where do you think it's going actually, the role of the people in the design team or designing systems?
That's a good one. To me, designers, we are facilitators. We facilitate dialogue. We facilitate the conversation. We even kind of with design system. So there's a moment of building, which is we just deliver the system here at size. Now the most of the team, 70% of the team, we are shifting to a consulting role. So we're not building the system anymore. We're kind of helping the business to better understand the system. And then, so the thing is that designers, we're always kind of moving, moving around. So we're going to find a way. But if you have that in mind, that we are the guys that we can put together the rational and the creative thinking, and then you can have the conversation here, you can have the conversation on the other side. So that's why, to me, designers are pretty much the facilitators. So we're going to facilitate the dialogue, and the dialogue can be in between the parts, or the dialogue with the system itself. So yeah, I'd say designer as a facilitator.
Is it design an exclusive task of the design department, or companies should start encouraging a design mindset within the organization?
If you haven't started yet, so then hurry up. I think there's learnings from almost for after the design thinking fever. Everybody thought that it was a fad. And then you see big organizations embracing design thinking beyond design. So, and it's interesting because I had a couple of arguments, fights with my colleagues in the past prior to my PhD. So then I always defend the idea of design. Design doesn't belong to the designers. So it belongs to the company. If the company, or even the kind of society, if you want to build something, so why should we, we facilitate the conversation. We are part of the long process of building that one. So of course, if you're purist and say, well, you have to, go to the university and get, yeah. But then when you finish your degree, and you're gonna join either a group of friends and you can start a business, or you're gonna join a corporation, and you're gonna do something together. But you're gonna be part of something. You're not the total, you're not going. You can even drive, but I don't think even companies that, let's say, they say, oh, design-driven companies, cool, but you need an accountant, you need a lawyer, you need in some case so many other different stakeholders. And but anyway, long story short, design doesn't belong to the designers. So and so I think we need more. It's too pretentious to say that we are belongs to only to designers. I would feel lonely, taking care of design by myself. So.
Awesome. And just to finish, one last question, and it comes from the example you gave that Flutter, if I'm not mistaken, it was born as a remote company, right? Am I correct?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that you gave the example of Flutter, and if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that it was a remote company from the beginning, from the very beginning. So
yeah,
I have a curiosity regarding that, and since you have a lot of experience in design, and embracing a remote mindset, how do you think diversity and inclusion from people from other, like a remote culture basically has no borders, really impacts the outcome of design?
Yeah, well, you're gonna have an impact anyway because we're still um, uh, learning, with this new moment, of isolation. So and we know designers, we need people, we need to exchange. Lots of things happen, in the cafe area, in the between meetings, the happy hour, and everything. So I think it's a kind of in between moment. So we still need to figure out how we gonna make sure people will survive that thing. So, but um, that's fun enough. When 2014, when we were presenting Flutter to people and companies, they will say, "Hey, but then how many people you have? So how many you want? No, what's your address?" I said, "We don't have an address." And then now some of colleague of companies are calling us and say, "Hey, are you the guys that with this crazy idea of working remote kind of 6 years ago?" So yeah. And then well, it's a new moment for Flutter now, which is super super cool. I think it's we learn fast. There will be definitely an impact. So people are not feeling comfortable, to be very honest. So I think it's and everybody say, "Oh, the new generation, they deal better with digital." No, they don't. So we are all human beings. So we need other humans. We need to learn how we're going to deal with that. But yeah, I'm quite optimistic. So it's just kind of again, destination. Another summer, and then things will get better. Hopefully, it will.
We all hope things will get better. Well, thank you so much, Clara. I think it was an amazing talk.
Oh,
I
thank
hope
you.
we have the chance to have you again in another talk or in a panel. And well, it's super late for you, so again, thank you for that. And well, let's keep in touch soon. Thank you, everyone, for
Absolutely.
attending this talk. And have a good night to you and good afternoon for everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, guys.
Bye.